It highlights how these images not only promote products, but also shape our perceptions of beauty and reinforce societal expectations. To knot, to tie, to weave, to split, or to tangle are all associations Lorna Simpson takes up in her work. Just like a hairdo, one can undo. Undo learned beauty standards, untangle historical violence. This leads us to the question of what natural truly means and where it is visible, especially for Black hair. Maybe in Mobolaji Ogunrozoye's collages that are titled Distorted Realities. This brings us to our next speaker, who has enriched the exhibition catalog with an exploration of the cultural history of Black hair. Laurie Tharps describes herself as a storyteller, a journalist, author, and educator joining us today from Spain. Along with Ayana de Bride, she co-authored Hairstories, Untangling the Roots of Black Hair in America, a seminal work that has established her as a hair scholar. Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you so much. And it is such an honor to be here. As just mentioned, I did write the book or co-author the book, Hairstories, Untangling the Roots of Black Hair in America. That book was written in it was released in 2021. It was then updated again in 2014. And that's just to show that I have been studying hair and hair culture and hair history for over 20 years. And I am learning so much just listening to everybody today. And I do call myself a hair historian. And I have been looking at, like I said, Black hair culture, but global hair culture. And again, this is just such an honor to be here and listen to everybody and learn so much more about hair. So I am going to just share a little bit about hair as a form of identity or as an identity marker specifically for African Americans. I'm sure that for a global audience, some of the information that I'm sharing might ring familiar in your own cultural milieu. And it also might ring familiar because Black people and their hair have had a global impact. But I'm hoping that what I share will give you even more context to the meaning behind Black hairstyles throughout history, and also will make you think a little bit about, how we judge people for their hairstyles. And spoiler alert, judging people for their hairstyles is not always a bad thing. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up just some visual elements to go along with my with what I am going to share with you today. All right, so first, I'm basically going to just talk about, again, hair as identity, and I'm going to take you through a brief timeline. And again, I am condensing 400 years of history in a 5-minute conversation. But I just want to start by saying that in 2006, India Ari came up with this song called I Am Not My Hair. And it was a popular song, particularly with Black Americans, because it provided us collectively with a lyrical liberation to say, hey, I am not defined by my hairstyle. And after 400 years of actually being judged by our hairstyles, this was quite liberatory because our hairstyles, again, had marked us as different, and different in a negative way. Our hairstyles were considered wild, angry, rebellious, bougie, ghetto, mostly negative connotations. And so this song, I Am Not My Hair, said, hey, I don't have to be judged by my hair. My hair doesn't define me. However, historically speaking, our hairstyles have defined us as African Americans. Going back in time, all the way back to the 1400s, a little bit before European contact or the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, we know that Black Africans from West Africa particularly, but really all over the continent, used their hairstyles to, in fact, define their identity. Hairstyles could tell people right away, without even speaking, where a person stood in society. Were they warrior? Were they chief? Were they mother? Were they daughter? Were they bride? Were they widow? The more elaborate the hairstyle, the more prestige and status they had in society. So these hairstyles really were significant, and a person's family and tribe was defined by hairstyles. So again, you didn't have to speak the same language. Europeans even began to learn what different hairstyles meant. So all you had to do to find out who people were was look at the hairstyles. And like one of the earlier speakers said, because the hair was the highest thing to the skies and the heavens, hair was also thought to have some spiritual elements, almost magical elements to it as well. And you can see there are so many different types of hairstyles. It's just, there's an endless way of styling the hair. And these styles were done over long periods of time, very reverential relationship with the hair. There were specific people designated as hairdressers, artists. You would only let certain people touch the hair. And so when you had this type of positive identity acknowledgement for the hairstyles and for the hair, you can imagine how traumatizing it was through the transatlantic slave process, where the first thing that was done was shave the head, shave the hair, remove the intricate hairstyles, and make somebody anonymous, make them a slave, transform them from a unique individual to, again, an anonymous slave. Just a couple of other styles. This is obviously Hattie McDowell from the movie Gone with the Wind. Many people know this image. Many people know this movie, and it's just probably the epitome of what we went from, those beautiful styles, to covering the hair with a handkerchief, with the scarf. Obviously, as an enslaved individual, people were not given time to do these intricate styles. The tools and the products that were used to make these beautiful styles were obviously not available. And so the relationship from reverential went to pretty much a survival, just trying to survive enslavement. And the hair was often used as a defining differential between Black and white, therefore making Black people's hair as inferior, as ugly, as animalistic. So again, the idea of covering this thing that made you different, that made you inferior, became very common. And so again, it's just a dramatic way to showcase how we went from loving the hair, beautiful hairstyles, dramatic hairstyles that said, "Who are you?" to this idea of, I am a nobody, I am less than, I am covering my hair. The thing I used to love is now the thing that makes me less than, one of the things. So post-enslavement, we move on. Again, I'm moving through time very quickly, but post-enslavement, we have a new way of looking at the hair. We are no longer enslaved. We are an emancipated people. We are ready to show the mainstream America, aka white America, that we are ready to reach for the American dream. And the hair became a easy way to show our willingness to assimilate, to play the game, to fight for the dream. And now the hairstyles are mimicking popular white styles of the day. Women are straightening their hair and styling their hair just like men, just like their white counterparts. Men are also doing similar, looking at whatever the white prevailing styles are for the day. And now we understand that hairstyles can symbolize those who are willing to assimilate, willing to play the game. And on the opposite side, if women and men, Black men and Black women, are not wearing their hair in the prevailing styles of the day, then they are looked at as not willing to play by the rules, not willing to assimilate. Even if they were, it's possible they didn't have enough money and they're still wearing maybe the braided styles from the South and during enslavement. Maybe they're still dealing with hair problems and wearing handkerchiefs on their heads, which symbolizes that they're not sophisticated, they're not ready to move forward. So you understand now that hairstyles really become a symbol of advancement. And we want to show the world who we are with our ready for progress hairstyles. So what happens next? Moving forward to the civil rights movement, to the 1950s and 1960s, there have been decades of assimilation hairstyles, decades of straightening the hair, which requires heat, which requires chemicals, which requires money. And we still don't have parity. We're still not equal citizens. We still are living under segregated laws in the United States. How do we express our displeasure? One of the ways that that happens is through hairstyles. We stop straightening our hair. We stop going with assimilation hair and moving to protest hair. We allow our hair to grow out of our heads the way it was intended to. No straightening, no pulling, no making it smaller. And this hairstyle is, again, a physical manifestation of our anger, of our frustration, of our demanding to be seen as full human beings, as full citizens of the United States. So without saying it, we are saying it with our hairstyles. Again, the hair is one of the easiest things to manipulate and change to showcase who we are, how we feel. And the afro becomes that statement hair. Of course, it goes to the extreme, and the afro is often associated with dangerous rebels like the Black Panther movement, Angela Davis. These kinds of quote unquote rebels are identified by their hair. Their identity is seen, their politics are assumed by their hairstyles. Now, once we get into the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and even the year 2000, even into the natural hair movement, we see a great variety of styles pass through as time passes. We had the 70s, that was Cicely Tyson wearing cornrows with this kind of a back to Africa, reclaiming our roots styles. The 80s and 90s, we saw wigs and weaves and straight styles again, but real over-the-top styles that were not hearkening to whiteness. They were simply, excuse me, they were simply not exaggerated, I want to say exaggerated, but luxurious, fun, playful, showing wealth with the hairstyles. And then we get to the mid-2000s when we have the natural hair movement, where we have people going back to Africa for inspiration. Now I say inspiration, we're not copying, because we have a whole different aesthetic now, but we are going back to styles that originated literally in the 1400s, 1500s. I think these styles are reminiscent of the ones that I showed you first from West Africa. We see this type of creativity being reclaimed by the different hairstyles, right? And we see Black women and men no longer thinking they had to straighten their hair to assimilate, to be a part of popular American culture. So this is all great, right? This is what we want. However, getting back to the idea of I am not my hair, we have come to the point where we want this idea of hair liberation. We want to be able to wear our hair, whether it's in a headscarf or wild and free, and not be judged by our hairstyles. That would be the true perfect ending for Black Americans. However, whereas we as Black Americans may be at the point where we are able to say, I'm wearing this style because I like it. It shows, it expresses how I feel about myself. Free, fun, connecting with my cultural heritage, whatever that might be. However, we don't have parity. We don't have a shared vision with how other people see our hair. So that is where we are today, where we may feel free from stereotypes or ideas about what hairstyles mean, but we are still being judged, where people still think sometimes if a person is wearing an afro, that means they're angry or countercultural. If they're wearing dreadlocks, they're probably a Rastafarian or a drug dealer. And so when we say, I am not my hair, it's not only for us to believe that, but also for those who judge us and think they understand who we are simply about our hairstyles. And I'm leaving you with this final image of Jay-Z and Beyonce, because they express probably the perfect dichotomy of where Black people are with their hair today. Jay-Z with freeform locks, which would be considered a natural hairstyle, and Beyonce with a blonde, long weave. Now, what do these things say? They're a married couple. They live in the same household. Are they two completely different persons? I mean, is he a rebel, uh, uh, countercultural rebel? Does she really want to be white? All of these ideas about identity that are caught up in our hairstyles, I think you'd be absolutely wrong judging these two people just by their hairstyles. These two people, though, are both of them are some of our most popular Black icons. And what I think when I see these hairstyles, it says we have gotten to a place in the United States where Black Americans are free to wear their hair however they want to, but only if they are at the place in society where judgment cannot hurt them. Okay. So it's a complicated conversation, but it's a wonderful conversation because at the end of the day, Black people's hair is such a powerful expression of beauty, art, and identity. And it's only when we have the judgment by outsiders who, can take a job away or say that certain styles aren't appropriate for the workplace or for schools, which is still happening, that's when it becomes problematic. But the idea of being able to express who you are by your hairstyle is something that is truly ancestrally a part of the Black experience. Thank you very much.